but I find other things that I have to do.
Gotcha.
So it's been like up and down. It hasn't been real steady. And I kick myself for not being steady at it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you don't want to kick yourself, because what you start to realize looking more into meditation is that it's the natural state of the body and the mind to be scattered.
And that's probably why it happens, because you're right, it's a natural state. It feels like, you know what I mean? Like, and it feels unnatural to just to not be, to be still. But for me, like to sit and meditate, I don't think it's hard to concentrate, really. It's just like I also find other ways that help me to focus, like drawing or just taking a walk. So I've noticed, like, even though when I think meditation, I think what everybody else thinks. Usually you're sitting in a still position and you're just meditating. But sometimes I don't know if my mind allows it, or I'm just more focused on something else, so I need to do something else, like maybe draw, to focus on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big part of what complicates a lot of people is, like what you said, when we picture what meditation is, we think it's just sitting still and thinking about nothing. But there's like levels to it. Like, I think that original level of just sitting still is more of a training of keeping your body still, because a lot of impulses that come from the body distract the mind. So it's like the first step is to still the body so that the mind can focus.
Right. That makes sense.
And what we find, focus on the subject at hand. Hello? Okay, yeah, I broke up for a minute. Like, when we practice on focusing on the topic at hand, it helps us to pull more out of it. And it helps us to focus less on the body type of distraction, because the body is mostly reactive. So it's like, that's why we have fear.
Yeah.
Whenever we see something we don't like, it forces us to react away, and that overrides the mind.
That makes
So I
sense.
guess you can easily start to see how the importance of training the mind before working on spiritual stuff. Just focus on mental stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you done any work with like chakras?
Just real basic, but then again, it's like, I don't know, I've questioned myself if I'm doing it right. I'll read it somewhere, or I'll watch like a video or something, and then I feel like I don't know if I'm doing it right. Am I really balancing my chakras, or is it, is it all in my mind? Or these questions pop up, like, is it like, are you really doing anything? Like, I don't really feel a difference or anything like that.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been saying to myself a lot is, it's impossible to understand a thing if we don't have a good example of what success looks like.
Right.
So I guess in your head, when you think of balancing chakras, what do you see? What does success look like?
I don't know if it's like, it's just, I guess maybe a little bit of everything that I've seen, because balancing your chakras, like, how do you know, are they really balanced? Like, what does that feel like? What does it look like? Yeah. Is this person, like the person that's maybe a video that I'm watching, are their chakras balanced? And how do they know their chakras are balanced? And how do I know that their chakras are balanced?
Yeah.
It's a whole, like, just a downward hole that you're going through.
Yeah, and that makes total sense, right? Because these questions pop up naturally. We have to know what it's supposed to look like. People tell us how to do it, but nobody says what it looks like.
Exactly.
So that's one of the benefits that I get from studying a lot of the Indian traditions and yoga traditions, because it really paints the picture of how the chakras relate to how the mind thinks. For example, the root chakra. If you read about it, you'll see that imbalances look like you're constantly on the lookout for material comforts and security. Like you get extremely worried and sensitive if your job's on the line. I mean, everybody does, but like things concerning money and will I have enough, or, oh, are we going to be able to make it this month? That's an imbalanced root chakra. So when doing chakra meditation, you're accessing parts of the subconscious mind to help balance things like that. When your root chakra is balanced, because it deals with security, you're more on a comfort, more of a abundance mindset. You might not have enough, you know what I'm saying? Like you may be in the same situation, but instead of worrying, you're going to be more hopeful, more confident. And when you're like that, you begin to find more opportunities to help you. In other words, things kind of fall in place, it seems.
Right. I get you. Okay, that makes sense.
So when you study each of the chakras and what they represent, you begin to see, it's more of, you're going to see the effects. You're not going to see the actual cause because it's invisible. It's energy. But if the energy is balanced, that's the cause. The effect is going to be balanced. So dealing with heart chakra, that's compassion, that's forgiveness, things like that. You know, how are you in your life when it comes to people who've wronged you or judging people quickly? A balanced heart chakra is someone who isn't constrained by judgments and things like that.
Right.
So I guess a good picture of balanced chakras is someone who at least has a balanced perspective on life. Does that paint a better picture?
Yeah, totally, like a way better picture. And it's just so, the way you explained it is just like so easily explained, like it was I could understand it a lot easier.
Goodness gracious. So when we're doing these chakra meditations on YouTube and things like that, it's not so much just listening to it, because that does help, you know, the frequency, the vibration, it helps in a subtle way. But the real work is to be done when, you know, you're meditating, your body's still, and your mind is focusing on the concept. Like if you're focusing on the heart chakra concept, you're going to symbolize that with the color green. You're going to symbolize that with different ideas dealing with it. And you just kind of zoom in on that with focus. And what happens is when you're focusing deeply on that thing, it's going to bring out truths. And that's where these people get the stuff to write the books from. That's what we call like revealed information or divine information. You're pulling it from the energy.
Okay. Now, quick question.
Yes.
The term download gets thrown around a lot in the metaphysical, occult, anything, whatever you want to call it. That's something that's kind of like a mystery, just like the chakras were to me. You know what I mean? Like, what is, like, how do I know I'm getting a download? Like, what is a download? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to distinguish these terms and how they're describing, or what is it that they're describing, and is it something? Because I think a lot, like, when I meet people, like, I'm empathic, but it took me a long time to figure that out, because that's just how I was. I didn't have a term for it. When I started realizing there was a term for it, then I realized when I was having like a certain, like, if I would meet a person there, immediately I would get a picture of, like, okay, good example. I met somebody one time who gave me bad vibes, and the picture that I got was a picture of my cousin who was always in trouble, always doing bad things, even though he was a good person. But those are the kind of vibes that I got, and I knew, like, it was just, that was the type of person, and I was correct. And those are the type of things that come to me. But like I said, like, it's always just been like that for me. So I never said, oh, I'm empathic, and this is, you know what I mean? It was just normal. It was my normal. So, like, when people say, oh, I'm psychic or I'm intuitive, it's like, how do you give yourself that label how do you realize that if that's always how you've been? That's just your normal.
And that kind of goes into the whole category of experience, how we can only really define life based on the experiences that we've already had. So when you're having these metaphysical experiences and you don't have a box to put them in, you don't have a category to put them in, you feel weird because it's unexplainable. But then you begin to see things that relate to what you've been feeling. Now you're able to kind of identify it better.
Right.
But a lot of these things with downloads, it's kind of like what I described previously. When you're focusing deeply on a subject or a symbol or something, you're pulling information in from it. It's not coming from your body. It's not coming from your thoughts. It's coming from deep focus on that symbol. It's not something that you made up.
Right.
It's something that you received.
Okay.
And that also identifies why shadow work is so important. Because if the thought process is clouded and the body is clouded, you're going to misinterpret these messages.
Right.
And like what you were saying about your cousin, I think you said, you got, or the other person, when you felt a bad vibe about them, and they're a good person, but they keep finding themselves in trouble and getting into these situations. That's kind of an example of an imbalanced chakra. It's pulling in situations to resonate with where his energy center is. And you can feel that. You can pick up on that.
Right. That makes sense.
They make it look real mystical on these videos and unexplainable, but it really does have ways of understanding it.
Yeah, it's like you're right, the term the mystical is what it's like. It's almost like everything has an explanation, but nobody's explaining it because they're keeping it like it is like a mystery.
Right.
When it may have always been there, and you may have never even realized that that's what it is.
Exactly. And there's different reasons. Some people profit off of keeping it a mystery. And what I've begun to discover with my study, because I like to go down the rabbit hole and find like the source of things. The more that I've been really looking into Buddhism and the Indian tradition, I'm starting to see and connect the dots that a lot of this European ceremonial magic, like where we get all this stuff from recently, a lot of it is founded on the Indian tradition. I think a lot of these masters or these occult leaders were either trained by some type of guru, yogi, or study that information and just relabeled it.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right.
The whole reason we're able to actually get into contact with these goetic spirits is because we focus in on these sigils and it stimulates something. It begins to provide us with these downloads.
Right. See, and that's where, I don't know, I think I might have said it in the message to you, like that whole fear. When you say that brings up a fear in me. And it wasn't, and it's like, it's the whole Christian upbringing, even though I wasn't like a hardcore Christian, but it was there. You know what I mean? It was just there. And the word that's attached to the feeling that's attached to the word demon or Goetia, after I found out what a Goetia was, you know what I mean? It's like, it's that whole taboo. Just like, a cult. And it's like that taboo that's attached to it. Right. Now, I've gone past the occult taboo. It, like, it doesn't bother me. It really never has. But the whole taboo that's attached to demon and, oh, you shouldn't mess with that. And you know what I mean? Like the whole fear and the whole thing that they really, society or whatever you want to call it, has built up on that. When I listen to Bobby and I listen to Panic, and what they say is those, just like the angels, the demons are a part of your subconscious. Right. So it's like, logically I'm thinking, okay, what if it's a part of my subconscious mind? What's the harm in accessing that? And why is there something like, well, be careful who or what you're opening the door to, because you don't know what's going to happen. If I do it, is something going to happen to my family? Something, you know what I mean? Like it opens a whole bunch of like fear doors, if you want to say it.
Now notice that. See, what's happening is that a lot of the fear and misconceptions are coming from people who don't have all of the pieces of the puzzle, or even have just a little fraction of it, and they try to run with it. Because like we were just saying, the shadow work has a lot to do with it. The Kundalini chakra stuff has a lot to do with it. If your body isn't balanced, if your mind isn't balanced, your thought process, when you receive this information from spirit, it's uncontrolled, or at least you're not directing it in the right place, because now your insecurities are getting in the way, your ego is getting in the way, all these different things. That's what causes the bad luck, the negative things to happen, right? If we're dealing with,
so it's that like the vibration you're putting out.
Yes. If you're already imbalanced, what happens when you say focus in on this demonic energy that's known to cause harm to people deliberately? You're throwing that energy all over the place, even at yourself.
Right.
Versus if you're balanced, your thought process is clear, when you're able to access this energy, you're able to see that it's not just about, having little energy forms run around doing stuff for you. It's about learning that you indeed are in control of your surroundings to a higher degree that you previously thought. When we think about this external concept of God, that's what we're taught. But the more that we get into spiritual work, whatever path you take, you begin to see how much closer you actually are to that thing you call God.
Yeah.
And you begin to see it's not the body that's God. It's not the mind that's God. It's the energy behind those things. Because the body is a creation. The thought is a creation. But there's something deeper. And that's what we're trying to seek, no matter what path we take, whether it's, this occult path, working with demons and stuff, or Christianity. If you're serious and you study, you start to see more and more how this is actually you, or at least your part in it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Now I don't want to take over this whole thing, but the other question is finding out where to start. Like you're a good foundation. I've heard many people say different things, but like your basics, like where would you even start or tell somebody to start learning any of this?
The Kabbalion a good one.
Yes.
The Kabbalion?
Yes.
I definitely would say that. And the reason being is because you're getting more clarity. You're getting more definition on, like you said, the things that you've been feeling but didn't have an answer for.
Yeah.
What the Kabbalion does is it helps put into perspective the immutable laws of the universe. Right? We got the Bible and we think the commandments, but those rules can be broken and are broken all the time. When you look at the Kabbalion, it illustrates these 7 laws that are not broken, that even the divine itself has to obey. And it's not so much like rules imposed by leader, it's how the energy works, period. We talk about the law of polarity, law of vibration, everything moves. We talk about the law of gender, cause and effect, all these different things. They're not to be broken because it defines the spirit that we're working with. Defines a great place to start. Also, initiation to hermetics, because it helps to also illustrate the picture of purifying the body and the thought process to be able to access higher energy. It's like a step-by-step method. So I definitely recommend initiation to hermetics as well.
Okay, awesome. I wasn't sure about that one, but thanks.
It's a heavy read. It can be a heavy read. But with that book, you take it step by step, one lesson at a time. It's more of a long-term book.
Right.
The Kabbalion I always carry with me. I always pull different things from it the more I study it.
Nice.
All right, we got